anything to it. It does take a little bit of willpower and a little bit of getting used to, because of the more trips to the loo and stuff like that. You have to sort of do it carefully. I recommend building yourself up sort of a bit at a time. Again, if you start trying to chug down 4 litres a day from 1 glass a day, you're gonna feel a bit funny, and it's gonna be hard. But start with 1, then go up to 2, and do it like that. Yeah.
Brilliant. Wonderful. And that's such a simple step that we can all take. Yep. I know we could talk about health for hours and hours, and I know we haven't got hours and hours. We can maybe revisit these in a future episode at some point, maybe in another year's time when we can get together again. But moving on to the second point, which is wealth. So again, what can we do to start improving our level of control and thus our confidence around wealth?
Simple stuff. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. There's lots of people have come up with various different systems that are all about taking control. And you do not have to have lots of people. The same with health. They go, I'm not going to the gym until I start drinking the water. I start getting a bit fitter first. People are like that with money. I can't get control of my money until I'm out of debt or until I've got a better job. And listen, if you believe at all in sort of fate and your mindset and being able to the abundance sort of theory and being able to attract things to yourself, why would you be able to attract more money if you're not going to get a pound unless you can manage a penny? So actually, if you've got less money, you learn how to manage that little bit and get control of that little bit. Okay, you will find more money will come your way. And I'm speaking absolutely from my personal experience. I just started a little habit. I just did once a week. I logged into my bank accounts. I set up 2 different savings account and a little ISA. And every Thursday, I just transferred 10% of everything I earn. I went 5% into there and 5% into there. Every Thursday I did it, even if it was 2, I transferred, it was 10% of my available balance. So I was still in my overdraft. It wasn't even my money that I was putting in there, right? But I started feeling in control, and it started giving me, I'm working with a client at the moment, and I explained to her about the difference between fun and happiness. And I was like, this stuff that you're spending your money on, it's fun and it's great, but is it making you happier, or is it detracting from your happiness? It's distracting. Right. Okay. So every time you go to spend money, ask yourself, is this going to be fun, or is it going to make me happy? And what you'll find is when you start saving money and you see that little pot grow, that gives you genuine happiness. When people say pay yourself first, that's what they mean. They don't mean just chuck it all into your bank account that you can go and blow it. Paying yourself first means paying your future self, paying your happy self, paying your core self, and that is with control and with confidence, and that comes from sort of saving and investing and learning as well, learning about money and maybe investing and just reading a little bit about how these things work and having a bit more of it. There's lots of books out there. I just started listening to things like The Millionaire Mind and listening to what's the big basic one that everybody reads. I know you read it. Name has just gone from me. Anyway, yeah, there's lots of books out there. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, things like that. And the more you start sort of taking on these thought processes, awareness is a good start. And then taking control, even if it's just a tiny little bit, even if you don't open those bank accounts, get some pots, some little piggy banks, or whatever, put your spare change in them. Divide it up. But my thing was, it was so you have your living money, your money for life, and you've got your money for your future self. You've got money for spending. Don't not have fun. Right, because that turns everything. It's a bit like when you go on a diet and say, I'm only going to eat salad. All you spend your time dreaming about is chips. So you have to allow yourself a little bit to splurge, but it feels much better when you know you can, and you know the amount you're allowed to do it with, even if it's just going and buying an ice cream, or going to the cinema or something like that. Just do it, and make sure you do actually spend it, and spend it all, the little fun pot. So I've got that. I've got my future pot. The other thing I did initially, that's how it first started, was I saved an emergency fund of £1,000. And that, once you've got that in your pocket, in a place where you can't just get it immediately, that gives you confidence, because you no longer feel broke. You no longer feel in a minus negative balance, and it alleviates so much worry. I mean, £1,000 will get you out of most pickles. All right, if your car breaks down, if your tire blows, if you need to jump on a flight and go and see a relative somewhere, £1,000 will get you there. Okay, bailiff knocks at the door. That is enough to get him to go away. So you remove that element of stress from your life, and that makes it easier to make other decisions.
Nice. I love the point you make about you've got to get I wish I could talk. You've got to get good at looking after the small amounts, like the phrase says, when you look after the pennies, the pounds look after themselves. If you're not good at looking after the small amounts, then when the big amounts come, you ain't going to look after them either, and you won't end up with
no, absolutely not. You see it every time with the lottery winners, don't you? Win the money, 4 or 5 years later, they're back to square one. As one of my favourite mentor people, Uncle Crosley, says, you can't skip the steps. It's difficult. You have to learn how to do the basic bits properly. Otherwise, you can come into it all and you can do all the other bits of work. But unless you really understand money and have got control over your mindset over money, you're not going to manage it well.
Yeah. And
it won't come to you. Just don't think it will. It might come to you by accident, but it will leave you straight away.
Absolutely. And that's a lesson which I've learned massively. I say learned. I haven't. I failed to learn it. 3 times.
Yep.
3 times through my life, and the results showed every time. Big income, but that's all right. I've got the money. I can spend it. Boom, income disappears. Into a pit. 3 times before I finally learned that one.
I am speaking as from absolute personal experience, and I'm still dealing with it now. I'm not in the free and clear yet. But I tell you what, the difference that I've shown with money over the last 18 months since I started this journey has been absolutely huge. It's night and day. And now I see my future doesn't look like a big confused muddle of money. I know the times, I've got my goals set out, my time frames, and I believe in myself and my newfound ability to be able to achieve those goals. It just changes the game completely.
Brilliant. So that's health, that's wealth, and the third core was relationships. And as you say, that's not just relationships with significant others. It's relationships as a parent or as a sibling or any form of relationships, friends, and so on. What can we do to step up our confidence in the relationship field?
I don't want to muck up your recording, but I just want to make one more point about money and why I think it's critical for men in particular, because that is something that our society still puts upon us. And there's a ridiculous statistic of sort of 8 out of 10 men still feel the pressure of being the main breadwinner in their relationships. And it is intrinsically linked. Our financial status is still linked to our masculinity, and I think that's why it's so important for us to get that control, because once you have that ability, and once you're able to buy a house or buy things, and get the things you want to do, I think it's pretty critical to masculinity, and it takes a lot of stress. Which in there are certain aspects of it that I think are very particular to the male psyche. With that, sorry, I just wanted to add that bit in.
No, I'm glad you did. It's a very good point that you made there. So thank you for adding that one. And there's nothing I can add on that one. I think you've covered that beautifully.
Cool. So relationships.
Yeah, relationships. Well, how can we boost our confidence there?
Well, I think if you've taken care of those first two things, you're now looking and feeling much better, and you're sort of financially stable. You might be wealthy or whatever, but you're feeling in confidence with that. And when you're, if you've got children or you've got a partner and they look to you, and you can make plans. You can say, right, yes, I know I'm going to be able to do that. I can now take in control of my health. I can imagine myself playing with grandchildren or whatever. And, I'm strong enough and financially capable to manage my parents if they get ill. You can step into those relationships with confidence of who you are, and as somebody that is able to be of use to the people that you love and care about. And I think it's really, really important. I think we've got this big sort of, I don't know. Yeah, relationships. There are all sorts of new things coming about now with relationships. I think social media plays a huge part in detracting from our traditional relationships. I think it plays a massive part in breaking up sort of marriages. I think lots of marriages go back to use and misuse of social media and meeting and talking to sort of other people on there, or spending too much time on it. So that's something that we're like, and it's so new, isn't it? Like what we don't know how to handle it. It's new. We're making all sorts of mistakes and trying to learn as we go along. So that's an interesting one. I think, and again, our society, we don't when it comes to family, we don't live in those little sort of support networks anymore. Lots of family are very disparate. We live all over the country. My brothers live all over the shop. We spent our whole lives living in different parts of the world, including my parents as well. So we don't live in these little tight-knit communities anymore. I have to get my Christmas cards out from the year before to remember my neighbours' names. So all of this stuff is new. Okay, there's new things, and that can leave a lot of us, especially with men. We have very few friends now. I think it's on average women have 8 and men have 1 good friend. And a lot of guys, when they get married or get into a relationship, they'll lose touch with those friendship groups. Really critical when I do my talk about relationships. Friendship is one of them. When I speak to old people, it's one of the biggest regrets they have, is sort of losing touch with their friends, and they're really, really gutted about it. Certainly as you get older and your friends start passing away and things like that, people really miss their friends, because when we're talking about being true to who you are. So I've got my mates. I'm fortunate enough to still be really good friends with lots of guys I went to school with. And we meet up maybe once or twice a year now, because we're all busy. Again, we live in different parts of the country. But those guys know everything about me, right? They have seen me at my absolute worst, most embarrassing, seen me do things I would be very, very embarrassed anybody else to know about. They know more about me than my wife. They know more about me than my parents. They know more about me than anybody else. So when I'm with them, there's no bullshit. I can't pretend to be anyone else. I'm just me. And that is really, really, it's a really nice place to be, isn't it? I think. So yeah, that's definitely something I work with clients, especially the guys, is about reconnecting in those friendships, and finding some people who you can be yourself with. It's difficult at work. It's difficult when you're networking. It's difficult. It's easy online to create this false person who's got all of this. So having a relationships with people who you can be real with. The problem with relatives is they have vested interests a lot of times,